with. I've done well with him on the finance committee and other things that I've worked with him on, and he's really been a, you know, he's a little stingier than me, but he's been a real good director. And Director Gary Hund, who's in tonight, thank you so much, Gary. As busy as you are, and with what a high-level job you've got going on the Mojave Desert Land Trust, thank you so much for keeping up with both of us. You know, these last couple of years, I know it's been tough, but thank you so much, both of these guys. You will both be missed. If we were there in person, there'd be cake. You know? And
thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
We really appreciate it, Gary. You really bring a scientific knowledge, hydrology, geology, biology, know how to read all kinds of plans and charts and very technical documents, and that's really great. And I know we'll be swearing in some new directors. I think one of those directors might have some of those qualities. But Gary, you are a real gem. Thank you so much. And you know what? You've got important work that you're doing. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, it's been a real honor to be serve on the board of directors of the Joshua Basin Water District, and incredible staff and wonderful board to work with. And it's with some regret that I didn't stand for re-election, because I really believe in the mission of the district and its importance. And however, I know Tom Flowen is going to be taking my position, and I think the world of Tom. He's a wonderful man and very ethical and very thoughtful, and I know he'll carry on very well. And I want to congratulate Stacy. I think she'll do a wonderful job. It's always sad, you know, when we lose one and bring on another, but I think that Stacy will do a wonderful job, as will Jane. So I feel like it's in good hands. And of course, Rebecca, you'll be there to continue for the continuity, and Mark and Susan for not much longer, but for a while longer, and Anne. Couldn't be in better hands as far as I'm concerned. So that gives me some solace, knowing that as a customer and former board member, soon to be former board member, that it will remain in good hands.
Thank you. Well, Mark, I think it's up to you to do the honors here. And we're going to be swearing in Tom Flowen, Jane Jarlsberg, and Stacy Doolittle to the board of the Joshua Basin Water District.
Okay. All right. I'm
Sarah.
Uh-oh.
Mic is on.
Mark.
This might be a little rough considering you're 7'4", Tom. We might lose you in the picture there. So I don't know if it's a necessity that we stand, or just raise our right hand there. Perfect. If you could raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Oh,
Hey, Mark, we can barely hear you. Could you get closer to the microphone?
Yeah, let me try to. It's right here. I think I'm having an issue with my mic. Is that any better?
Yes.
It's a little bit, yeah.
Okay. All right. I, Tom Flowen.
I, Tom Flowen,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Was it? So help me. All right, Jane, you're next on the list here. If you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jane Elizabeth Jarlsberg,
I, Jane Elizabeth Jarlsberg,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you.
Ms. Doolittle, if you could raise your right hand. I, Stacy Doolittle,
I, Stacy Doolittle,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear.
that I will support and defend the Constitution.
You know what? You went underwater there for a second. I
Oh,
couldn't.
sorry. I apologize. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. All right, let's start over. I, Stacy Doolittle,
I, Stacy Doolittle,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Fantastic.
Yay!
Hey, everybody.
All right, congratulations.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Have a banana.
Oh, Mark, do we have a Mike? Is Mike Reynolds on?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good. Okay, well, we're all here. That's wonderful.
I'm very cell phone there. I hear every other word.
Oh, geez.
So Rebecca,
Yeah.
I just want to say that was the peaceful transfer of power. That's
It
what it should be in our country. And I also want to say that some of us has-beens might want to stick around for a while tonight. So, and I want to congratulate Tom and Stacy and Jane, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you as well.
Okay, well, I am the vice president of the board, so I will be leading the meeting up to this next item, which is the election of officers. Mark, do you have anything you want to tell us about this?
Just that, I would begin with the office of president and taking nominations for that office, and then once we've taken votes on that, move on to the vice president.
Do I have any nominations for president?
Rebecca?
You
I'm
can't
sorry,
vote.
just for a moment, my last act as an ex-board member, in the past, I read the what it says in the handbook, and So just so people know, they can, the handbook says that members of the board should let fellow board members know if they're interested in being nominated to one office or the other. So in the past, we didn't really do that, and I thought that, you know, people should know that it's okay if, I won't say a name, but say board member X, you know, is interested in being vice president, they should let their fellow board members know. That's all.
That's good. I appreciate that. Thank you. Does anyone have a desire to be president of the board?
Rebecca,
Yes,
do you?
I do.
I'd like to nominate you.
Oh, well, thank you. I will accept that nomination. Do I hear any other nominations?
Do we need a second?
I'll second that motion.
Was that Mike the plumber?
That is Mike.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Do we need to do some discussion on this, Mark, or they just take a vote?
No, that's fine. We have a first and second. We can do a roll call on it.
I'm sorry. I've got big dogs. Let me.
No. Oh, dear.
So the action would be all those in favor of Vice President Unger taking the position of president? Director
Aye.
Adams?
Aye.
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 Director Flowen? I've got to take roll call one at a time. All right, so Director Reynolds?
That would be an aye.
Director Flowen?
Yes.
Director Doolittle?
Yes.
And Director Jarlsberg?
Aye.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to throw my dogs out. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Your dogs
yes.
agree, Rebecca.
No, the dogs say yes.
Oh, there's nothing like a Zoom meeting, right, folks?
Yeah.
Can I ask Tom a question?
Tom says okay.
Tom, are you interested in VP?
I'll do it if you want me to.
I'll second that. Do I have any other nominations for vice president? Hearing none, I guess we'll go to a roll call vote.
Yes. President Unger?
Aye.
Director Doolittle?
Aye.
Director Jarlsberg?
Yes.
Director Reynolds?
Yes.
And Director Flowen?
Aye. Yes.
All righty then.
Okay. Congratulations.
Okie dokie. Yay!
Yay, Rebecca. Yay, Tom.
Okie dokie. So we've got that cleared up. Now we need to look at the agenda, and I need a motion to approve the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Does anyone want to comment on anything on the agenda? Not me. Not me, my dogs.
This time. It's me this time.
That is so funny.
Perfect timing.
Timing.
Home office.
Yep.
Hearing no comments, I will, I guess Mark will take a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. President Unger?
Aye.
Vice President Flowen?
Aye.
Director Reynolds?
Aye.
Director Doolittle?
Aye.
And Director Jarlsberg?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
This is the time in our meeting set aside for public comment on any district-related matter that's not on the agenda. Government code prohibits the board from taking action on these items, but they may be referred to the board for future consideration. For those commenting in person, please state your name, limit your comments to 3 minutes. Written comments shall likewise be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments in the queue?
We do have one that was submitted by Mr. Fick. David, would you like to use this time to comment, or would you like me to read your letter here?
Go ahead and read the letter, except for the part that says advising to vote in or nominate Becky. Other than that, yeah, it's a rigged election. Just out of the blue and coincidental, exactly 1 year ago, I started to dampen this a little. Exactly 1 year ago from now, my wife died. Just to let you know.
Oh, David.
That was at a Bernie Sanders rally in
Oh,
Rancho Mirage. So I'm making notations elsewhere. Go ahead and read the what I wrote in. Who reads this? It's sent to Beverly.
Yeah, she's not here at the meeting tonight, so I can read it for you.
Okay, go ahead and read it.
So this is from Mr. Fitt. This is Dear Beverly and Joshua Basin Water Board members, old and new. Changes are coming. I'd first like to thank President Johnson for all he has done for Joshua Tree, including serving on the JBWD board. I first knew Bob Johnson as a Marine-based community liaison position. You might have the correct term. He was assigned to take notes on MBCA board meetings when I was president of the MBCA in 2008 and 2009. At the time, he was taking better notes than my secretary. MBCA has vastly improved. During the time, Walmart Supercenter and Section 33, Joshua Tree Villas, were major concerns for MBCA. In 2010, Bob Johnson approached then JT Mac Chairman Steve Whitman and me about an easement by the Marine base on Section 33 after the Joshua Tree Villas project was defeated. The easement seemed to be Bob's idea on helping Joshua Tree after 4 years of threatening massive development by Joshua Tree Villas. He greatly aided with the help of Mojave Desert Land Trust and the MDLT acquiring Section 33 through the Marine base, paying half the cost of acquisition with the required easement conditions. It probably wouldn't have happened without Bob Johnson. He then was appointed to the JT Mac, and of course, he's been on the JBWD board ever since. Thank you, Bob. Welcome to Stacy and Jane. You're in for a lot of fun and responsibility. And we can't forget Tom and Mike. Hello again. And then we'll skip that recommendation part. Speaking of Section 33 and continuity, there's Mrs. 33, Susan Greer. I've called on her through the decades, and she's always impressed me, always. Thank you all, David Fick, Joshua Tree.
Well, that was great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
If I have no further public comment, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Matters on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted in a single motion without discussion. However, any board member or member of the public may request that an item be pulled from the consent calendar and acted on separately. The items that are on the consent calendar tonight are the first quarter financial report ending September 30th, 2020. This has been reviewed by the Finance Committee on December 9th. The October 2020 check register, also reviewed by the Finance Committee on December 9th. The draft minutes of the meeting of November 18th. And do I have anyone who wants to take anything out of there or ask any questions or make a correction or comment in any wise? Okay, then.
Well, we're on to my thing.
Do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
oh, I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Director Doolittle,
Aye.
Director Jarlsberg,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
He's muted.
Oh,
Director Reynolds, can you hear us? Or can you hear me rather? Mike?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you
Yes.
Okay, all right.
go. Vice President Fleming
Yes.
and President Unger.
Just hold it down, honey.
And President Unger.
Yes, aye. Next item is resolution number 20-1025. And Mark Ban, our general manager, will present this resolution to Assistant General Manager Susan Greer.
Perfect. It's very unfortunate, Susan, that I'm not able to just hand this over to you and take some nice pictures in front of the dais, but we'll do some mock-up pictures after everybody's been vaccinated. So, as we all know, Susan's getting ready to retire at the end of this month after 33 years of long and dedicated service to this water district. And just kind of doing some simple math and figuring maybe 2 meetings a month, this could very well be her anywhere between her 700th and 800th board meeting. So, and also her last board meeting, but for an organization that's very grateful for the time that she's spent here. Speaking to people of the past that have worked here and that currently work here as her peers and employees, all have great things to say about Susan, and she's been a great mentor to several of the employees here at the district. And so her legacy will certainly continue to live on here. I imagine several phone calls will continue to take place long after she's gone, more than I'll ever be aware of. And I just wanted to say, thank you, and I've really appreciated the time that I've had to work with you, Susan. And it's because of all those things that we're dedicating this resolution. It says a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Joshua Basin Water District expressing their appreciation for Susan Greer for her service to the Joshua Basin Water District. Whereas Susan Greer has given 33 loyal years to the Joshua Basin Water District, and whereas Susan has been instrumental in providing leadership to the Joshua Basin Water District through her work as Assistant General Manager, Controller, and serving as Acting General Manager when duty called her to do so. And whereas Susan has been an ambassador of the Joshua Basin Water District by dedicating herself to the people of Joshua Tree, the employees of the district, and by networking with other water districts and organizations in the Morongo Basin to foster communication, cooperation, and goodwill. And whereas during Susan's tenure, the Joshua Basin Water District has become known as a progressive, stable, and forward-thinking organization. And whereas Susan's staff is greatly appreciative of her guidance and wisdom, which she has readily and selfishly shared each day. And whereas, although she will be missed very much, her legacy as a knowledgeable leader and mentor, as reflected in the important decisions that she helped to make, decisions which defended, supported, and improved the district, will live on. And whereas Susan Greer has decided to retire from the Joshua Basin Water District. Now therefore be it resolved, the Joshua Basin Water District Board of Directors does hereby express its thanks and gratitude to Susan Greer for her time, dedication, achievements, and contribution to the Joshua Basin Water District. And be it further resolved, the Joshua Basin Water District Board of Directors does hereby further wish Susan and her husband Rick the very best. Adopted this 16th day of December 2020 in Joshua Tree, California. If I may, President Unger, there are a few employees that would like to say a few words, if you don't mind.
By all means.
Ann?
Yeah, I'll start. All right. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Susan Greer is a legend at JBWD, having served for more than 3 decades. Not only is she the knower of all things, she has also been the steady hand to guide the district through countless changes over the years. I have been very fortunate. I'm going to try to get through this without crying.
Oh, no.
I have been very fortunate to have Susan as a mentor for nearly 13 years now. And though I can never compare, I have learned so much and I'm very thankful to you, Susan. You have served faithfully and honorably, and through your example, I have learned that it is most important for a public servant to maintain the highest level of integrity and unending concern for the ratepayers.
Oh,
The Finance Department will miss you, Susan, tremendously, and we wish you all the best in your retirement. And here's an unknown quote, or a quote of an unknown source. Retirement is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of an open highway. And we hope you have a wonderful journey.
thank you. Yeah, gosh.
Sarah?
Hang in there, Susan.
I know.
You can do it.
Any other
Sarah?
comments?
You want to say anything?
Maybe someone else should talk next. I'll talk at the end.
Autumn?
I'll talk.
Go ahead.
Is
Jim.
that an okay?
Go ahead
Yeah.
there, Jim.
Oh, anyways, it's funny. Susan and I've had a interesting relationship
Yeah.
over the years, and
Up and down.
up and down. But in the end, I think we're a lot alike. Probably a lot more alike than most people realize. I know that she could be a tough cookie sometimes, but so can I. And we've always managed to work well together, I believe. So I appreciate what she's done for the district. I've worked with her for about 16 years now. So I wish you the best and your husband. And I think that you're not too far away from the district. So you can always pop in and subject yourself to a little torture.
You bet.
Attend a board meeting.
Will do.
Thank you, Susan.
You're not rid of me yet.
Oh, it's all good. But I appreciate working with you all these years.
Yes, me too.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I'll keep it short and sweet because I won't last.
Yeah.
I do appreciate everything that you've taught me and your leadership and all your support, and you will be very missed. Thank you for everything, sincerely, and thank you for all your service.
Thank you, Autumn.
Please continue. Anyone else?
I'll go next. Susan, I think out of this group, I've probably worked with you the shortest amount of time, but can you believe it's almost been 5 years?
Wow.
I can't believe it, but you are an instrumental reason that I was hired at the district, so I'm forever grateful. And you have big shoes to fill. We're all going to miss you. It is just going to be so hard to say, what happened in 1982? Oh, hold on, let me call Susan. She'll know, and she'll know the history. So losing that institutional knowledge is going to be really challenging. But you've left us a very good foundation, and we're just thankful to work with you. I don't even know how to say thank you enough. So I wish you well in your retirement. I can't wait to hear stories. Send us pictures of you and Rick on your bikes and all your travels.
Yeah.
So well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you. Will do.
Kathleen?
Yeah. Susan, I'm not officially staff, but you have never treated me other than 100% as if I was on board 100%, which I'm not. But you've treated me that way and taught me and raised me up, and it's been over 10 years that we've worked together.
Yeah.
And I want you to know there were certain things, which I will say later, not in this public meeting, that you had told me that absolutely guided my direction for the water district. And many times you were the one in charge. You were the interim general manager. I quit counting. But during those times, you gave me my compass and how to move forward on behalf of the district. And, you know, being a number cruncher, you know, you were just always precise and always on it. And then I find out you're this incredible artist on the sideline. And how you put those two things in your brain, I can't figure it out. But I have admired you over the years, and I respect you, and I thank you for raising me up in the water industry all these years. Thank you, and please go party on, because I'm jealous. I want to be there too.
Oh,
Thank you.
Kathleen. Thank you.
Awesome working with you.
Ah,
Shall I take a turn?
You may.
Susan has been a significant ally to me for my several years now with the district. Her door has always been open. She's been very patient with me as I stumble through this. I'm only a student of accounting. I'm not claiming any expertise in it at all. And she's just a priceless resource for this water company, and any of us would be hard pressed to duplicate any of her achievements here with us. And I can tell you too that my I don't know how many years it's been, 5 or so that I've been doing this. I've had some ups and downs. In particular, one very low point. And I can tell you unequivocally that if it was not for Susan's encouragement, I would not be here. I simply would not be here without her. And I've had since then some fun times. This is all very interesting stuff. It can be very exciting too. It's just fascinating. There's so many nuances to this. And Susan helps bring that out. And her enthusiasm for what she does has been extremely clear, and also her loyalty to her staff has been is ingrained, and it's been quite palpable. It's quite obvious for these years, and it's emotional too, and we're seeing that tonight. And so I could tell you that there is life after retirement. I've been retired for 14 years or so, and there are to say the least, some interesting things to do, some challenges that you can undertake if you want to. My advice would be not to try and fill the void right away. Take a breath and take some advice from your husband on that kind of thing too. And just best wishes. And I am clearly going to miss you, and all that junk and stuff that I find along the road that you make art out of. I'm going to have to do that myself, I guess.
keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Okay.
Anna will get it to me. Yeah.
But thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Oh, wow.
Tom is hoarding a really neat old rusty oil heater. And, you know, we'll see how really he means about, you know, bringing you stuff. Yeah, when he lets go of that great old oil heater.
So real quickly to add to the accolades as a former board member now, but Susan, working with you for 4 years has been such a privilege. And, you know, I've been a professional in the conservation field and for 40 years, and I've rarely worked with such a consummate professional as you. You're an incredible technician and also incredibly creative, and you are, you know, I think of the Rock of Gibraltar when I think of Susan Greer. So, and I know you'll really be missed by the whole district, and especially Mark. You know, now being in that position, I think of a person similar to you that I have in Mojave Desert Land Trust, and you know how it would be for me without her. It's another very successful woman showing that women can be everything that any of us men can be and more. So I just want to congratulate you and thank you for what you've done for this district and this community all of these years, and wish you the very best. And Susan Greer for Joshua Basin Water District Board is all I can say. So.
Thank you, Gary. Boy.
Well, I'm gonna horn in here, Susan. You know, talk about institutional knowledge. I mean, it's hard to beat that. And you have done so much to make sure that that knowledge is coordinated, collated, update, put where we can get to it and bring it into the 21st century with everything you've seen. And with all of that, with the kind of understanding you have of this really arcane finances of a water district, a special district. You have a great personality. And that's just, and you brought great people on board. And I can't, 33 years, that's just amazing. Everything you have weathered here, some really, rough stuff. You've been here, I think, when people were getting recalled. You get here when people left. And, you were the one that was, juggling all the plates and stuff. Absolutely amazing. And still with a fun, sweet personality that you are. And you deserve so much, and I know you're going to get it. And you stuck out this long. You deserve another 33 years of reward for the 33 years spent here at Joshua Basin. That is faux show. Thank you, Susan. This is another instance. We'll be bringing out another cake, and there will be cake at some later date. Congratulations, Susan. Congratulations, and thank you so much for all these many years to the people of Joshua Tree and to the Water District. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. Goodness.
Anybody else want to make Susan bright? Oh, there he is.
Susan, my goodness, the stories you tell, the things I've seen for 12 years, double that would be enormous. My goodness, I wish you the very best in retirement, and good luck turning your back and working away here. I imagine we're going to see you again. And boy, the history, the knowledge that you're taking with you. I sure hope that you keep your phone number listed, that we can give you a call when we need to remember what happened back in 1963. Susan, thank you so much. I've spent many times in your office, and you've helped me out on countless challenges, and see what you've done for the district. When we've gone between general managers, the tasks that you've taken on, I suppose, and you handled it with ease. At least it looks like you did it with ease. Good job, Susan. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Can't hear you.
Yeah. At least the dogs aren't barking.
Yeah.
Susan, thank you so much. And you know what? You still have the rest of this long meeting to get through.
Well, I have something that I want to share too. Thank you so much. This is very bittersweet. As you can imagine, I am so honored and humbled and trying so hard to maintain my composure. The words are really difficult now, so I wrote them. I hope that you can forgive my lack of spontaneity and excuse my emotion. Bear with me. As I look back on my career at the Water District, which has literally been more than half of my life, I am grateful for the challenges that kept me engaged and the amazing people that inspired and assisted me. That's the wonderful thing about the water industry. We help one another freely and graciously, and I have received a ton of it. I have had many mentors over the years, from some outstanding general managers and coworkers to some amazing consultants to some committed board members. I was also fortunate enough to have several strong female role models, and I hope that I have in turn been the same for others. I am most grateful to the leaders and the coworkers that I've had the honor and pleasure to work with. Those who pushed and challenged me, those who made each day for 33 years a bit brighter, and even those who pushed my buttons because it made me grow. To all my coworkers, past and present, I leave congratulations for a very tough job. Well done. And hope that I have helped you whenever the opportunity arose. Also, apologies if I was too tough or unreasonable along the way. It wasn't personal. Unfortunately, that's the job of a controller. It's inherent in the definition of the word itself, and I take the responsibility seriously. To the citizens of Joshua Tree, know that you are in good hands. I am sincere when I say that I have never worked with a more competent group of people in my 33 years than are present at the district today. Your finances are in the capable hands of my successor, Ann Roman, who, like me, is fiscally conservative and already has 13 years of experience at Joshua Basin Water District. Gosh. I have attempted to do my best each day of my tenure, no matter the assignment, and I hope that I have made a difference. I also hope that the district feels half as fortunate as I do with our 33-year relationship. I realized during my tenure at the district that doing important work, meaningful work, providing life-sustaining water in the desert, is important to me. And that's what kept me at the district for all these years. I'm weeping at my own loss. But you know, every ending creates room for a new beginning. I'll surely miss the challenging, important work, and I'll begin volunteering in the community to help in other ways where I can. I will miss the professional relationships and friendships that have been forged over the years, and I will begin to spend more time with family, friends, and neighbors to grow those relationships. I will certainly miss the high-level engagement that has stimulated my brain for over 3 decades, and I will take fun classes to grow that artistic right side of my brain in new ways. As I pass the baton, hoping that I have inspired the next generation to do their best, I wish nothing but success for Joshua Basin Water District, the staff, the directors, and the community we all proudly serve. I'll take a minute to reflect on a job well done, but I'm not going to spend too much time looking back. There's no future in living in the past. The important work of the Water District goes on each day, has new challenges, and I will look forward to seeing in the newspaper how Joshua Basin Water District shapes their future. Keep up the good work. I'll always be rooting for you. Best wishes. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And like I said, you still got a long meeting here.
I got through it though.
You did.
Well.
Oh my gosh, Susan. Yes, a rather momentous night with people leaving and new people coming on, and that doesn't happen very often.
No.
So this is a momentous night. And I want to thank everybody who wants to be part of Joshua Basin. We are a special group.
Yes.
Joshua Tree is a special place, and the people here are special, and we are a special group here to be managing water in the desert.
Yes.
That is our job.
Yes.
Tell you what, we are going to see then exactly how we're doing at managing water in the desert. We have our audit presentation. I think Chris Brown from FEDEC and Brown is going to be doing it. And Ann, I think, do you want to introduce this one?
Yes, I would like to, please.
Take a roll call.
We, of course, invited Chris.
Mark,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm roasting the vocal cords trying to yell. Can we go back and take a motion, a second, a roll call on that last item, please?
the
On the resolution?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Call for the motion.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 1025?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call, please.
President Unger,
Aye.
Vice President Flowen,
Aye.
Director Reynolds,
Aye.
Director Doolittle,
Aye.
Director Jarlsberg.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for remembering, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, so on to the audit?
Yes.
Okay. As I was starting to say, we've invited our auditor, Christopher Brown, to attend our longest meeting of the year, apparently. And we're so glad he's here to present the audit for us tonight. We do this audit on an annual basis, and it was reviewed by the Finance Committee on November 10th, and also approved by the board via the consent calendar on November 18th. And so today we're just hearing the presentation, asking questions, and making sure everybody is up to speed with that. I will let him give the details. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to those who work so hard in the finance department throughout every summer, especially to put the audit together, including Autumn Rich, who is here tonight. And we just couldn't do this without them. We hone tens of thousands of transactions into this document, and we spend about 9 to 10 months of the year getting to the point of getting this document approved and distributed. So it's quite an effort. And with that, I will hand this over to Chris. Do you have the presentation, Mark?
Yeah, I've been trying to share here. 1 second.
Okay. I think we have that for you, Chris.
And you are the one that puts in most of the effort for the audit, Anne. So
Oh,
can't
well,
let that go by.
it's a team effort. It's definitely a big team effort.
Well, they're pulling that up. I'd like to say, it's official. The resolution is passed. You're definitely loved by everybody there, Susan. And I would like to say that, we've worked for a number of years, and I've always enjoyed interacting with you. I audit many, many districts, and I have to say, you're the real deal. You are the real deal.
Oh.
And, definitely going to miss you.
Wow.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the future, okay? Director, whatever it may be, okay? But thank you so much for everything, okay?
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. All right, I'll go ahead and move into this. Let me mess with my computer so I can see what's going on here. Okay. All right. Once again, my name is Christopher Brown. I'm the engagement partner with FEDAC & Brown. Go over the 2020 audit results. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. With regard to who we are and who the team are, basically FEDAC & Brown, as I mentioned. Basically, it started with Charles FEDAC about 30 years ago. I became his partner, and we started FEDAC & Brown. We specialize in special districts, water districts specifically. So we have like about 60 engagements currently, and it goes into the hundreds, if not thousands, if you look back into the past. So our firm has a lot of experience in this particular area. I already mentioned that I'm the engagement partner. Charles FEDAC is acting as the technical review partner. There again, he has about 40 years of experience, started out with some of the big four, or what is now big four firms, and he is now our technical reviewer. The audit senior who did most of the field work is Alec German. He's the audit senior, and he wishes to express his thanks to everybody that was involved. The process was done remotely due to COVID, and everybody responded fantastically. And I think it went really well. And you are in good hands and did a really fantastic job bringing it all together. So thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Okay. Kind of the purpose of the audit, the requirements. State law requires the district to have an audit performed each year by an independent CPA. So it's not, It's not you're just choosing to, it's you're required to have it, and it needs to be filed with the state controller's office at a minimum. Really what the reason for the audit is to determine that the district's financial statements are reasonably stated. It's like many entities are looking to the audit to make sure that their investment in the entity is reasonable, and that your financial statements are properly stated. We provide you an opinion basically saying that. I'll get to that in a moment. Keep in mind that it is the audit of the financial statements is not an internal control audit or a forensic audit. Those are different types of audits. They don't deal necessarily with the balances of your financial statements. They're looking more at the underlying systems and processes and controls within your processes. We do take those into account. We do extensive testing in our interim field work, take the items that we come across into consideration when we design our audit programs. Last thing is fairly recent law basically requiring a rotation at a minimum of the lead partner on an engagement after 6 consecutive years. We have Andy Beck in place to basically rotate into that position going forward, but that is a requirement. That's basically to keep fresh eyes on the engagement. Kind of a side note, our firm believes in rotating staff in on at least a biannually basis. So we'll typically show or have a new senior involved or a supervisor or manager. You're in compliance. Okay? Please go to the next slide. The next slide.
Mark?
There we go. Okay, so the audit process is governed by the statements of auditing standards. They're basically the guidelines, big books that basically spell out all the things that we need to look for, the processes we need to adhere to perform an audit. Those are also quite as we are audited every 3 years ourselves. Basically, somebody comes in, an auditor comes in, looks at the engagements that we've audited, and holds us to those standards to ensure that it's done properly. In addition to the AICPA Statement of Auditing Standards, there are federal and state requirements. So if the district was to get federal or state funding, you would need to adhere to whatever regulations are required there. The single audit would be an example. If you were to get over $700 or expend $750,000 in federal funding in a particular year through grants, you'd be required to have a single audit on that. That's a separate engagement. Okay. GAAP, or Generally Accepted Accounting Procedures, is essentially established by GASB, Government Accounting Standards Board. It kind of plays in well with Statements of Auditing Standards. One is the standard for conducting the audit. The other one, GAAP, is basically reporting, how items need to be reported. Definite guidelines on how that is done. Okay? Please go to the next slide. There we go. Okay, with regard to the audited financial statements and who gets these, this is just a short list of the many that do and can ask for it, but obviously the state auditor controller, that's a requirement. The county of San Bernardino, local area information company. In addition, Mojave Water, working with them. Any banks and lenders that require it for debt would also be a recipient. There again, bond rating agencies. Dun & Bradstreet is an example of that. In addition, any requesting party. So if somebody from the public wishes to see your financial statements, you need to provide it to them. And these days, back in the old days, you basically provide a hard copy, but now most of these things are online. Okay? But those are the entities that are getting your financial statements. With regard to the audit, it's typically broken up into 2 periods. This year was a little bit different because of the COVID and the working remotely, but typically interim field work happens before the year end, and what we're looking at is your internal controls, gaining an understanding of the district's control framework, how you do things. Can can we identify weaknesses within your system and bring them to your attention? There again, we design our audit programs accordingly. We're also looking at tested controls, looking at the counting cycles, your payroll cycle, your purchasing and disbursement cycle, and such. Final field work typically happens, of course, it has to happen after your year end, and we're agreeing the balances that are provided to us to the underlying documentation. Does your cash reconcile to the bank statement? You look at your bank statements and such. Are they properly done? Do we see any evidence that they've been manipulated in any particular way? And performing analysis of key relationships. Go ahead. Move to the next one. Okay, so there are two documents that come out of the audit, one being the financial statements, and within the financial statements is the auditor's opinion. What you see here is one of the paragraphs within the auditor's opinion, and it says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Joshua Basin Water District as of June 30th, 2020. So we're providing you with a clean, unmodified opinion. So congratulations on that. Go ahead. The other document I referred to is the management report. And the management report is the auditor's communication to the board. The board is our boss. It's not management, it's the board. We answer to the board, and it's the board's best interest that we always have in mind when we're conducting our procedures and looking for material weaknesses and internal controls. So, and I'm happy to say that we did not identify material weakness within the district internal control structure. There are certain limitations with that. I kind of referred to material weakness and the limits. It's not a forensic audit. It's not a internal control audit. It's a financial statement audit. So there are certain limitations in identifying fraud. That being is we're not looking at every single transaction that happens. You know, there's tens of thousands of transactions possibly that you could have in a given year. We're looking at representational numbers to test. So there's always the risk, but we're fairly confident with the items that we tested that we did not identify material weakness within the district's internal control structure. So congratulations on that as well. Good job. Good job. One good thing about, I'll just say to everybody who's kind of outside of the accounting section of the district is management, they've always been willing to listen to the auditor. And if we come up with an idea, we talk about it with management. Been very few, but they've been very receptive. So and that's excellent, excellent. Very receptive to comments and such. Very happy to say that we did not identify material weakness. Thanks. Thank you again. Let's go on to the next slide. What we have here, and go over some of the numbers here. What we have here is the condensed statements of net position. It's essentially your assets, your liabilities, and net position. We can see from this, we have in 2020, 2019, and the change. And I'll basically focus in on the change from year to year. Total assets increased approximately 112,000. And I'm going to round the numbers. I'm not going to go to the dollar, okay, unless it requires it. But there again, total assets increased approximately 912,000. Deferred outflows or resources, that's really tied to pension obligations and such. You really don't have a lot to say about that number. It's actuarially determined. And we can see that increased approximately 23,800 from the prior year. With regard to the liabilities, it went down approximately 221,000. Deferred inflows of resources, there again, that's pretty much tied to pension obligations and such, actuarially determined. And we can see that you do have a deferred inflow of resources of 9,800 in the current year. Net position represents, probably the best analogy is your net worth. It's your assets minus your liabilities. And most of the time is broken out into these two, or I should say three areas here. What you've invested in your capital assets, less any depreciation. It increased approximately 426,000. Amounts that are restricted typically refers to cash being restricted for capital projects or for debt service. Okay? It went up approximately 10,000 from the prior year. And then we can see unrestricted net position. That's kind of like what's left over. What I tend to do when I'm doing an analysis long term, not year to year, but long-term analysis is I like to see an increase in the unrestricted net position over time. Now, there are many reasons it might go down, but what this really shows me is that the district is operating in such a way that allows the board to build reserves. Basically, you're accumulating the funds, the resources to move the district forward. So it's positive that you have that type of number moving. That looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is have you go to the next slide, please. Go there, advance 2 more slides. And then I'm going to have you go back to this one in a second. Go to the next one here. Okay. What we have here, yeah, that one you got there, that's fine. Okay, so what we have here is the other side of the equation. We were looking at the assets and liabilities, and what we have here is the condensed statements of revenues and expenses. And revenues and expenses, basically in the aggregated format, basically combining like items together. And you can see that revenues, and I'll go into the detail in just a moment. I'm just going to kind of give you a high level here, and then we're going to go back to the narrative we saw just a moment ago. But you can see that total revenues increased approximately 822,000. Move into the expense category, you can see total expense actually decreased 1.27 million. Capital contributions increased approximately 343,000. Change in net position is essentially your net income. I'm not going to look at the change column on this one. I'm going to look at the 2020 column, and it shows that your change in net position, or you might consider it net income, it was 1,148,000. Net position at the beginning of the year and net position at the end of the year. If you do the math, revenues less your expenses, capital contributions, change in net position again, 1.148 million. Net position at the end of the year, 37,711,000. So I'm going to go ahead and have you go back to the one more. There we go. I'll go ahead and I'll kind of go through this. This is the detail. I'll try to keep it fairly straightforward. And there again, I'm going to do some number rounding. As I mentioned, net position increased approximately 1.148 million to 37,711,000 due to change in net position of 638,000 from ongoing operations. So basically what you're doing for a living, you know, selling water and such. And 509,000 in capital contributions for the fiscal year. Now, what makes up revenues, or I should say total revenues, increased 822,000 to 7.642 million. What I was going to say is operating revenues, non-operating revenues, and the capital contribution is what makes up that number with regard to total revenues. Operating revenues represent what you do for a living, you know, your operations, water and such. Non-operating revenues, things like property taxes, things like interest earnings and such. Capital contributions, we all pretty much know what that is. It's amounts that tend to be contractor related, amounts that are gifted or granted to the district itself. But operating revenues increased 746,000 to 6.392 million, primarily due to increases of 433,000 in water consumption sales, so positive in your water consumption sales for the year. 269,000 in water service charges, which makes sense with the increased water consumption sales. 62,000 other charges for services, which were offset by decrease of approximately 18,000 in standby service charges. Non-operating revenues increased 76,000 to 1.2 million, primarily due to increases of 61,000 in property tax revenue, 44,000 in the HDMC operations revenue, 19,000 in special assessments for debt service, which was offset by a decrease of 48,000 in investment earnings. Makes sense. We've all seen how interest rates are decreasing over the past year. We're seeing a similar pattern with other clients as well. Capital contributions, the last item there, essentially increased 343,000, primarily due to increases in water capacity charges, 246,000 miscellaneous capital contributions, as I mentioned earlier. Please go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the other side of the revenues. It's your expenses there again. It's made up of operating, non-operating, similar to revenues, what you do for a living, and the ancillary type of items go into non-operating. Total expenses decreased 1,272,000 to roughly 7 million. Of that, operating expenses decreased 1,073,000 to 4.7 million, due primarily to decreases of 861,000 in pumping and production and treatment, 151,000 in transmission and distribution, 328,000 in general and administrative. It was offset by an increase of approximately 268,000 in customer service costs. The non-operating side increased approximately 224,000 to 796,000, due primarily to increases of 63,000 in losses on the Chromium 6 grant. Essentially the state put this in place. You were to comply with it. You incurred costs due to it. They basically canceled it, and you're recognizing these expenses. 35,000 in the HDNC project district expense, that portion of it, and 199,000 in other non-operating expenses, which were offset by a decrease of approximately 50,000 in the Morongo Basin pipeline expense. I just threw a lot of numbers at you, but it seems pretty straightforward that you, your revenue side, you saw increase in water sales. I showed you the numbers. Decrease in your total expenses, big portion of that in the pumping and production and other related items. Kind of a cap on my presentation is there again. It went very well, I believe, given the fact that we were doing this remotely. I had a lot of concerns about the process, not just with your district, just in general, because we did that with all our clients, really. But it turned out to work very well, okay? And your staff responded fantastically. We were able to provide you with an unmodified opinion, not identify material weakness, positive results. Finally, once again, I thank Susan for everything she's done. And thank you so much, okay? That is my report. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chris. That was great and very easy to understand, very straightforward. You're right. And do any of my board of directors have questions?
I have a question.
Certainly, Stacy.
I'd like to know on the expenses financial highlight slide, the customer service costs increased by 268,000. I'm just wondering what that is.
I can answer that. That is our meter replacement program, which is part of the customer service department. So this was our first full year of, this was our first full year of the meter replacement program. So that is something that we actually have been funding 500,000 into one of our reserves for. So that accounts for that increase.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
Next. Anyone else have questions? Director Reynolds, is that you? Director Vice President Flowen.
Well, I've got kind of a, I think it's more of a comment. Is that appropriate now or is that later?
Go for it.
Well, I'm reading, this is on, and you don't have to chase the pages because I'm not really using numbers here, but I'm on page 15, which is 26 of 85. And there's a section on estimates here. And it says that the preparation of the basic financial statements in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles requires management to make estimates and assumptions that affect the reported amounts of assets and liabilities and disclosures of contingent assets and liabilities at the date of the financial statements and the reported changes in net position during the reporting period. Actual results could differ from estimates. I'm reading backwards, by the way, if you're trying to follow this. And then I go to page 4, which is 14 of 85. And it says, one will need to consider other non-financial factors, such as changes in economic conditions, population growth, zoning, and new or changed government regulations, such as changes in federal and state water quality standards. And then finally on page 1, which is 11 of 85, well, not finally, an audit includes evaluating the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of significant accounting estimates made by management, as well as evaluating the overall presentation of the final statements. And then I moved up to page 2, which is 12 of 85. In our opinion, that's the auditor's opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the Joshua Basin Water District for this period, and the respective changes in net position where applicable, cash flows thereof for the fiscal years then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So what I'm getting at here, this is kind of like piloting a boat on stormy waters, where the boat wants to go forward, it wants to go backwards, it wants to go up and down, and it wants to go side to side. Where when you establish a budget and those budget figures, you're making estimates on what your income is going to be and what your liabilities are going to be, if that's the right word. And I can say, if you look at this quarterly report that's up north on our agenda package, you'll see that, and it doesn't exactly apply because this is for a current year, and this budget is, or this audit was for last year, so to speak. If you look, you can see staff is doing pretty darn good at, because on the right column, there's a percentage of expenditures and liabilities and such for that first quarter. And ideally, your target would be 25%, which would be the first quarter. And if you look, they're doing pretty darn good in these stormy financial seas at estimating what the budget allotments for every one of these segments, every one of these entries is going to be. Now, what you need to do that well and with credibility is a stable professional staff that's well trained. And we've seen over time when we do things at the finance meeting, we see entries in there where we're sending Ann Roman in particular to training to keep current on a lot of these things. And so there's also those nuances that a person with 33 years of experience brings to this when making these estimates about what our positions should be throughout the financial year. Yes, it helps when we have a split billing system where we have a basic fee that everybody pays, but there is sort of an unpredictability beyond that. I just give a lot of credit and acknowledgement of the professionalism of the staff for being able to do these estimates, and as I've stated these in this report, these stormy financial seas with regulators and everybody else essentially bailing water into the boat while you're trying to navigate. And so this is just a way of a Tom Flo and a lengthy way of saying thank you very much for being able to calculate these things, you and your staff, Susan, and end up with this clean report. One more thing, if you go to the state controller's website, or if you go to LAVCO and you look at some of the service reviews, we could get spoiled here if we don't do that. We can just make assumptions about how everything is right and this is easy to do and easy and simple. But if you look at what some of the other, how some of the other special districts, there's 2,000 of them or so, are performing, it's downright scary to see. And here, everything is just peachy. And that is because we have a stable staff here. We're paying enough to where we can keep people. They're not going to wander off someplace else, like Coachella or somewhere, because we have competitive salary rates and benefits and stuff. And so, again, it's just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Flowen. Anybody else? Questions and comments from the board? Do I have any public comment? Hearing none, this was a report for us to receive, ask questions, and file for information. And Mr. Brown, that was great. Thank you so much. And I'll wish you a happy holiday season.
Happy holidays to you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, item number 11, resolution number 20-1024, authorizing investment of monies and designating contacts for the Local Agency Investment Fund, LAIF. This also went through the Finance Committee, and I'm going to turn this over to Susan.
Yes. Okay, composure restored. Yay. Back to business. That's more comfortable. The district invests our funds in the State of California Local Agency Investment Fund. The acronym for that is LAIF. And because I'm retiring, we need to designate some new contacts who are authorized to both deposit and withdraw monies from LAIF. We use LAIF as a cash flow account. It earns interest, but it's very liquid. We can get access to money same day if needed. This item, as President Unger said, was reviewed by the Finance Committee on December 9th, and they have referred it back to the board for approval. This proposed resolution identifies the general manager, our director of finance, and our accounting supervisor as those contacts who are authorized to move monies into and out of LAIF. Any successor employees with those same exact titles would have this same authority. You know, this change is coming because Ann has a different title than I have. So, you know, what we have in place doesn't work anymore. This is an opportunity, I think, to remind the board and the public about the Local Agency Investment Fund. LAIF was established many years ago, over 40 years ago in 1977, to provide investment options for local agencies. It's managed by the State Treasurer's Office, and we enjoy the expertise of professional investors so that our funds can earn the highest return possible while maintaining the safety and the liquidity of that money. There's an audit, an official audit is performed on this work each year by the Bureau of State Audits. The State Treasurer's Office maintains over $100 billion in investments for the state of California, of which around $32 billion is LAIF related. Funds on deposit with LAIF, as I said, are highly liquid. We can get access almost immediately. And very importantly, under federal law, the state of California cannot declare bankruptcy. The state of, and by state law, monies placed on deposit with LAIF are safe and not subject to loan or seizure or impoundment in any way by any state official or state agency. I've heard rumblings about that literally since the day I started at the Water District. They're going to take your money, you know. Can't happen by law. So LAIF has over 2,300 public agency participants that have invested over $32 billion with LAIF. The district currently has over $10 million with LAIF, and the following page shows you how those funds are, and this is totally dynamic. This was a point in time, and literally, you know, every day we can be transferring money into LAIF or pulling money out of LAIF. So at this point in time, which was, you know, within the last month, we had $10,678,000 operating in cash flows of $3.3 million, roughly emergency reserves of $2 million. replacement reserves, and Ann alluded to this meter replacement fund. This is one of those replacement reserves. Meters, equipment and technology, buildings, studies, and reports. Those are things that we regularly need to replace, and we've created these replacement funds so that we are able to buy new vehicles when they're needed. We're able to replace our computers as they're needed. We're now replacing our meters because that's needed. Then a capital reserve of approximately 1.7 million. Then we have a whole bunch of legally restricted. So we have district restricted funds as well as legally restricted funds. Capacity charges, which are only authorized for use on growth related projects. So something that expands or grows the system, not replacement, which has to be funded through water rates. Customer projects and deposits, and then a whole bunch of funds related to our Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District are also legally restricted. So we end up with about $10,678,000. So on the last page of the packet, page 101, is the resolution. Again, it directs the 3 people who are authorized to transfer monies into and out of LAIF, and that is the last official report at my last official meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Susan. When we got a chance to go through this on the Finance Committee, it was just really interesting. I remember we really looked at it and talked about it, and it just made so much sense. This is one of those things that you've done, taken all this, vast reservoir of knowledge and said, let's make it better. Let's make it work like this. And thank you. This is a good legacy. Thank you very much. Any questions from my fellow board members? Any questions from the public? Seeing and hearing none, then I will look for a motion on Resolution 20-1024.
So
I'll make that motion.
What?
Who went first?
Who did it?
Mike did, Mike Reynolds.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
I'll second it.
And Jane second, okay. Roll call vote.
You're muted, Mark.
Muted. President Unger,
Aye.
Vice President Flowen,
Aye.
Director Reynolds,
Aye.
Director Doolittle,
Aye.
and Director Jarlsberg.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yay, 5-0.
And I'll come in tomorrow and do some sign-ins here. Next one, legal update. Social media modifications to the Ralph M. Brown Act. Our legal counsel, Jeff Hoskinson, is going to do this. Let's see, is anyone going to introduce Jeff, or should just take it away?
So Jeff, you should be able to bring your PowerPoint up. This is
Perfect. It is letting me do it now. I was just going to ask you for that. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. And while I'm making sure that works, I also want to take opportunity to congratulate Susan. It's been a pleasure working for you. I think I might be the briefest, actually, but it has been a pleasure working for you. And hopefully the next board meeting I see you at, that's a real beach behind you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Likewise.
I hope it's a real beach behind me, too.
Yeah.
So as Mark said, my name is Jeff Hoskinson. I am with Atkinson-Andelson District's legal counsel. I know you have a few new board members. Congratulations to both of you. I'm normally, at least I get to follow an audit. I'm not sure if Brown Act is better or worse than an audit, but I will try to be fairly brief. And this is really intended to kind of give you a quick overview of a new law that is coming into effect. It's a modification to the Brown Act that's effective on January 1st. I'm not going to go in depth into the whole Brown Act, but if at some point I need to, or if someone has questions on the Brown Act, I'm always happy to give an update, because I do know you have some new members, and Brown Act may be somewhat of a new thing. Just briefly, in the areas that we're touching on, so the Ralph M. Brown Act is the act that governs and manages how your public meetings are held. Your agenda, prime example, is published under the requirements of the Brown Act in terms of published 72 hours before, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the components of the Brown Act is that it does prevent serial meetings, which is a circumstance where you might have a meeting, not necessarily a direct meeting like you're in right now, but one board member talking to board member 2, who then talks to board member 3, and developing a consensus through a serial, what's known as a serial meeting, where it's developed either through staff or through other communications, like a chain communication. That's nothing new. That's been part of the Brown Act for a substantial amount of time. It's always been there. And also, it's been in the Brown Act for some time, is you are always able to communicate with members of the public. So that's kind of the buffer, the areas that we're going to look at here and what AB 992 is touching upon. Now, there's been for some time kind of this dilemma and unanswered question as to how the Brown Act interacts with social media. Brown Act hasn't been updated to deal with Facebook, Twitter, and the like, and it's always been viewed to apply, and recommendations have always been to follow it when you're online. But AB 992 is the first change of the law to actually try to take that on directly. So this, again, not a new problem. We had email as a prime example. An email goes out to all board members updating you on a board meeting, for instance, and you have the always ever-present reply to all risk, where one board member might accidentally or inadvertently reply to all, and suddenly you have a potential Brown Act violation. So this concept is not new. But now I will get into the changes of what AB 992 has done. So it is modified Government Code 54952.2. It is effective January 1st, 2021. So if I do an example here tonight that you guys have done last week, that's not a problem. It's changing your behavior beginning in January. And it does last only right now for 5 years. So it's kind of I've almost viewed it as a social experiment, that they're giving it a shot for 5 years to see how it works, and then they'll either modify the law or make it permanent, depending on whether it accomplishes its goals. But it's an attempt to clarify how members of a legislative body, i.e. the board of directors, may permissibly use internet-based social media platforms to address matters within the district's subject matter jurisdiction. And it's changed the Brown Act really in 2 notable ways. So first, on the positive side, it has clarified that certain communications on social media are not considered meetings under the Brown Act. You can still have separate communications with members of the public, and that is still permitted. You are able to answer questions, provide information to the public, solicit input on matters, as long as a majority of the board members do not discuss among themselves that anything within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district. So a board member can post online, you can answer comments of the public, but you cannot interact with each other on social media. And there's going to be 2 components here. So this first part is clarifying that you cannot have a majority of the board, so 3 of your 5, interact in social media, and it has defined discuss among yourselves that interaction to include use of digital icons that express reactions to communication. So the like button, the love button, the support button, that is all included in the Brown Act now. So that really, the main hinge of that is that it has clarified for us that likes on Facebook or Twitter are a communication that bring you under the Brown Act. This isn't really a significant change. It's a clarification as to how the Brown Act would apply. The big one is the second part. And this is something the Brown Act has not done at any point. As many of you are already aware, Brown Act has always dealt with when a majority of the board does anything. What AB 992 has done is provided that a member of a board may not respond directly to any communication on an internet-based social media platform regarding the subject matter within the district's jurisdiction that is made, posted, or shared by any other member of the board. So it is stricter than we have seen, because it's now any 2 board members can have a violation versus 3. Now, that may be subject to challenge to someone at some point. First Amendment issues certainly could be impacted. That is the law now until someone raises that challenge. Brown Act has been upheld under First Amendment challenges in the past, but to my knowledge, those have typically been focused on the fact that it deals with the majority of the board and is narrowly tailored to further the public benefit of open and transparent business. I don't know what's going to happen if this gets challenged, but this is the law under AB 992 for now, and something you have to keep in mind is that no board member may respond to a post made by another board member. So what I've done is tried to pull together a few examples for you, and I know we may have some questions, and if I need to speed it up, let me know. I know you guys have had a long night, but if you have any questions, let me know. But and you may have other examples when we're done too. But so example number one, Joshua Basin Water District posts a post on your social media about water use, and a customer asks a question regarding conservation efforts. And board member number one responds to that customer, and that is fine. It is still permissible and actually clarified to be okay under AB 992. Now let's say board member two also comments on the same post of Joshua Basin, but not to that comment of board number one. It's further down the thread to another customer, a separate comment. That still looks to still be okay because that board member is not responding or involved in the thread of that first board member. But let's say board member two likes the comment of board member number one. That is now a violation under the second part that I discussed earlier because now one board member is responding to that of another. Now I should clarify, it is unclear, the way they've written the law, the part about the icons and the likes, isn't as clear that it applies to that second part. It's a discussion among yourself under the first part. Conservatively, I think its interpretation of the law would find that it is a communication, it's a response by reaction, and it would arguably be a violation of AB 992. Now let's say board member number three also then commented on or liked board member number one's comment, then we clearly have a violation of both parts because you have three board members in one discussion and you're responding to another board member. Another example, let's say the local fire authority posts an update on a nearby fire and nothing to do with the water system, entirely to do with the fire, and a constituent of Joshua Basin Water District asks a question relative to fires. Board member number one responds. That's obviously still fine because it's responding to an individual. Board member two likes that comment. That's actually okay. Because in this case, it's not within the subject matter jurisdiction of Joshua Basin Water District, so not an issue. And likewise, board number three could also like that comment and not an issue because it's outside your subject matter jurisdiction. That is a key component of the Brown Act. So, and because it's an important one too, I think, for social media. Another example, board member number one shares an article on water use within the district, and board member number two responds to that post. Second part, that's a violation because one board member is responding to another. So that is no longer permissible. Board member number four posts a support or an article regarding the Delta Conveyance Project. I don't know why I picked that example. There could be others, but that one, I think I picked it because it's one of those arguable ones. It is not within the boundaries of the district. It is not your project, but it has to do with water. It does involve some water supply to Southern California and impacts directly or indirectly your water supplies. So I would actually tend to shy away from something like that. It's a close one, but it would probably be a violation. But it's very close on the line, and because it is within the subject matter jurisdiction of Joshua Basin Water District, which is water. Now, a more clear example, board number five, and this one fits tonight very well, given the dogs that have participated in this meeting. Board member number one posts a video of singing dogs. Board member two can feel free to respond to that. It is not, as far as I know, within the district's business, unless there's something I don't know about. And board members number 3, 4, and 5 can also like, love, or support that post in any way they like, because it is not within your business or the district's business.
Jeff, I'm going to see if any of our members have any questions so far. Does anyone have a question for Jeff?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Jane.
Actually, a couple.
Well, doesn't he have more of his presentation to go?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
But I have a point on this topic.
Yeah.
For instance, I read the LA Times on a regular basis, and I do believe on Facebook I posted an article about another water district.
Mm-hmm.
That would be okay to respond to?
Well, certainly your post is fine in any sense because it's your post. You're sharing an article. You're fine with that. It's about another water district. It's one of those blurrier lines because it's obviously not your district's business. It is about
But it might
subject
be
matter.
relevant. That's why I posted it.
Yeah, I would tend to say other board members should refrain from commenting or posting on that, or responding to your post. Your post is fine. Don't get me wrong.
Got it.
You can still do your post, but other board members, or if another board member shared that post and it was about water, I would shy away from that.
And I'm also wondering if it means that maybe it'd be best if we not be friends on Facebook.
I hate to say that, but it obviously could help remove the risk of a potential violation. But I don't feel it's my place to say not to do that. But
Okay.
but if you are friends, you do need to be very careful.
Okay.
And I only have a few more slides to go, so some of these may answer the remainder of the questions, and then I'm happy to answer questions as it pleases the board. Two more examples. I think I have board member number 1 shares a post of board member number. So this might fit board number. Let's say board number 1 shares a article, like in your example, and board member 2 shares that same post. Probably that would be a violation. It really depends on the platform you're on, but using Facebook as kind of the one I have in mind, usually when you share a article, it shows that you shared who you shared it from. That would then be expressing support for that article and be a violation of AB 992. On the flip side, board number 1 shares a posts an article regarding water district litigation or whatever it might be. Board member 2 copies the link and posts the same article. So same article from the same newspaper, but not sharing directly, doesn't mention where it came from. That's going to be fine because you obviously, there's no interaction between board members in that post. So that example, that would be okay. And I'll be brief here on the rest. This is really internet-based social media platform is any online service that is open and accessible to the public. The definition of open and accessible to the public, I won't go through each detail, but it essentially ends up being a Facebook or Twitter. There's some nuances in the definitions, which is why initially I was going to have a slide on this, but it seems pretty clear that it covers Facebook and Twitter. They talk about the ability to block users and taking them out of definition. It's complex. It seems like not the best definition to me is where I was going with this slide, but for all intents and purposes, Facebook and Twitter would likely very much be in the realm of social media that they're attempting to regulate here. And just lastly, just a reminder on permissible online activity, you still can have individual contacts or conversations with non-board members and individual contacts. This is probably an important one as well. Brown Act now says 2 board members can't reply online, but you still can have an individual conversation with another board member as long as there's not a majority and as long as that conversation is not used to then help develop a consensus in other conversations, you can still have one-on-one contacts. And may discuss and interact on matters outside the jurisdiction of the agency as much as you're desired. That's an important component. So even if you are friends with fellow board members and they're sharing posts about family, you can interact and there's not an issue there. So but it's important to remember the threshold for a violation. I put low, but it really is the fact that the Brown Act is a constitutional protection now. Both Brown Act and public records have constitutional protections. Public has a constitutional right to open and transparent government. And so if a court was interpreting AB 992 along with the rest of the Brown Act, it's gonna view it through that prism. So that's really all I had there. I'm happy to answer any questions, and sorry if I went a little long.
No, don't worry about that. That's really important. Director Doolittle, did you have questions?
Well, it seems to me, I was going to present a scenario, but I think ultimately it seems like that the best plan is probably to have limited interaction on social media with other board members.
Yes, that would be the safest.
Anyone else? And Jeff, will there be a way for us to just kind of get a copy of that, or
No, absolutely. I'm happy to send out. I can send a copy of the PowerPoint to General Manager Ban, and he can distribute it as he sees fit. Absolutely. And then if you have any follow-up questions on it, just let me know.
Yeah. Thank you. And I have a question. Who is it who writes the Brown Act?
The state legislature. So it is all adopted statutorily, even though we had a proposition that made it it's really a statutory process that has been given. It's been tied into the Constitution by proposition adopted by, I believe, in like 2006, but it still gets updated by the legislature.
So there's a committee in Sacramento out of our legislative body that works on this then?
I don't know if it's specifically Brown Act, but it would be bills proposed by individual assembly or senators and then runs through the committee process. I don't know. They probably have a governmental affairs committee. I'm not as versed on Sacramento politics, but it's passed as a bill and signed by the governor is how it would work.
Well, great. Thank you, Jeff. If there's no other questions, I will move on to item number 13, President of the Board of Directors to assign committee appointments. Okay, this is kind of fun. There's a lot of neat things to do on the Joshua Basin Water District. There's certainly something for everybody here. And since we've lost a couple of directors who were on these committees, we need to fill them. And we have, I think Beverly did send out to everybody kind of the schedule for Mojave Water Agency meetings and the Technical Advisory Committee meetings. Those are ones that we take turns on those. We rotate those, and I think everyone did get that kind of an Excel spreadsheet. And this shows for the coming year, for instance, on the Mojave Water Agency board meetings, Director Doolittle, you're on for January 14th. And those their platform is GoToMeeting. I think you might have been on it before. And then I got Vice President Flowen on the 28th of January. Director Jarlsberg, you're on there for February 11th. Director Reynolds, you're on for February 25th, and I'm on the end of the month. So we went by alphabetical order. I don't get on there until March. And then the Technical Advisory Committee, looks like we just kind of carried that through. We got Director Jarlsberg, you're on, they meet every other month. You're on in February on the 4th. Director Reynolds, you're on April the 1st. I'm on there in June and so forth. So I think we all got those. So those are pretty, like I say, we all take turns on those. But there are other committees, like when we were talking about tonight, oh, well, this went through the Finance Committee. And that is one where it was myself and past President Bob Johnson. And Vice President Flowen, would you like to be on the Finance Committee?
Yes, ma'am, I would be pleased.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna put you on there with me. You've got experience in that committee, and that'd be good. And then Director Reynolds, he was on the Water Resources and Operations Committee with departing Director Gary Hund. So Mike, I'd like you to stay on that. You've been doing it now, and I'd like to see if Stacy Doolittle would like to do that. I think that'd be a great way to get introduced to the workings of the water district And I would like to see Directors Reynolds and Doolittle on that. Can I hear from these directors, please?
Well, I'm fine with that. Sounds good to me. Naturally, that's kind of in my wheelhouse anyway, so I'm pleased to stay aboard on that committee.
Oh yeah, and you know what? You'd be a great person to introduce the water district to Stacy Doolittle. You know it inside and out, Mike. You know the system inside and out, and that would be great. Director Doolittle, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds fine to me. That is out of my wheelhouse, but
Oh no, you'll be a great fit. You'll be a great fit.
well, good. But I like stretching myself. So thank you.
You know what? I don't think you're going to find it too much of a stress,
Okay.
a stretch. I think you have a mind that kind of works that way, and I think you'll learn a lot. You'll enjoy it. And Mike is a great teacher, and just really and a fun person to be on a committee with. Then I have also the Public Information and Legislative Committee. Now I moved Vice President Floman off of that. And Director Jarlsberg, I'd like to have you work with me on we call it the PIC, Public Information Committee. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty familiar with legislation.
Yeah.
Having been on a state board, still on a state board, actually.
I think it'd be great. We meet every other month.
Intermittently.
Yeah, we kind of got a little off a schedule, and so we met today. But normally we meet the first Wednesday in the morning of every month, and
I had missed that. I was at a training this morning.
Yeah, I would like to have been at that training too, because we all have to do our ethics training and our sexual harassment, and there might be another one coming, we'll see. Yeah. And then we do have a solar technical advisory committee.
Oh.
I'm about the last person standing on that one from the board. Director Doolittle, would you like to be on that when that starts up back again?
Yes, I would.
I think you'd be a real good fit there. And then we also, one that they like to have the same person come to it is the Morongo Basin Pipeline Commission. It's a really good commission. And Vice President Flowen, would you like to do pipeline? Would you like to be on that board?
Yes, ma'am. I'd be honored.
You'd be great on that. You'd be actually great. I'm going to put myself on our Joint Powers Insurance Authority, which we have through Aqua, and I'll be the liaison with that with Sarah. And then we've talked about LAFCO, the Local Agency Information Commission, and monitoring those meetings. In fact, Tom brought up LAFCO tonight and those service reviews. They seem to meet, I think it's the third Wednesday at 9 a.m. And I think since this is new, I think maybe it's something maybe we could discuss. We can do that. It's on the agenda, so we can talk about it. Is there a need to monitor LAFCO? Would we switch it around like we do with
rotate
TAC or something in Mojave? Yeah. Anyone have any feelings about that?
Well, I'm interested if we decide to attend.
Anyone else, please chime in.
Well, we had mentioned having them come present to us as well.
That would be good. A presentation by LAFCO would be good. Mm-hmm. Extremely powerful. And if we ever want to expand our operations in some way, whether it was we do actually have sewering authority, but if we were expanding our jurisdiction in some way or something, it would have to definitely go through the Local Agency Formation Commission. And there are people that sit on LAFCO. Couple of members. Well, our one of our supervisor, Dawn Rao, she sits on LAFCO. Kimberly Cox, who's on Mojave Water Agency, she sits on LAFCO. Council
Jeff
people.
Bagley.
Pardon me?
Jeff Bagley is on it also.
Bagley's on it. He's the public committee member. He's from 29 Palms. There's alternates from Yucca Valley Town Council that are on that. So local people are actually kind of on that board and as alternates. And they, you know, it's another way to learn a lot about local government. So if we think that that's something we'd like to do, now all these committee meetings are all subject to reimbursement to the per diem. And so that's something where, you know, we're in an open session. Mark, I'm not sure, can we, if we put in a new meeting that we float around like the TAC and Mojave, that's also going to be a per diem meeting. How do we handle that? Do we have to have a public hearing about that or anything?
No, you're well below, I think, what even historically has been discussed at this point. So adding a couple other additional meetings isn't going to be an issue.
So if we were to add a LAFCO, it's one meeting a month. We would float it like we do. We could go ahead and approve that. We could try it out for a year and see if we are all, you know, gaining from it, if it's been important, if they see us kind of like, you know, logging into the meeting, because they're all virtual anyway, and they start to notice, oh, well, Joshua Basin is really, you know, paying attention. That's a good thing. So that's something I guess we'd actually have to vote on, because we're adding a new meeting.
It's on the agenda. Yeah.
It's on the agenda. And
you can assign one of your board members to go to a meeting and still receive per diem on that, Rebecca.
You know, Mark, you don't have any volume the way you've got your.
Right. Yeah, I'll have to change this out for next meeting. But as the board president, you can certainly assign one of your other board members to go to a meeting, and they can still receive per diem for that meeting.
Well, I'd like to make it I think a floating meeting. Does that sound good to people? That way we'd all get a chance to kind of look at it and see it and hear it and stuff. Well, then I guess I need to do do we need to do a roll call vote, Mark?
I don't think so, Jeff. Can they just decide to do an alternate? Jeff, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. On your agenda, I think aren't you doing a kind of a motion at the end, or are you? So I would just include it in that motion and do one roll call vote at the end of this item.
Oh, okay. As we appoint the committee assignments.
Well, these are just assignments, so
okay.
It's more just placing them in there. It's not creating any new ones. So
yeah,
well, it is creating a new one. We'd be putting people to go to the LAFCO meetings, which would be a reimbursed meeting, and this would be a new one.
You could certainly do a motion, a second, and vote to add that on, and that way you have an official record of the action.
I'd feel good about that. Any more discussion?
I have another question.
Yeah.
I believe Beverly told me that if we were to attend 2 committee meetings in the same day, we don't get paid twice.
Right. It's a per diem. It's a per day.
Yeah.
You could go to 5 meetings a day, and you're still
if we go to a committee meeting and a board meeting in the same day, we get paid twice.
No, it's a per diem.
All right.
And you'll get paid the same if you go to a meeting that's only like 20 minutes. You'll still get the full per diem. But if you happen to do 3 or 4 approved meetings in a day, it's still that per day, that per diem. So.
Right. Okay.
Director Reynolds, do you have anything you want to talk about LAFCO?
I'm how can I say, I'm excited that we're going to get more involved with LAFCO.
I think it'd be beneficial, much like how we've been very involved with Mojave Water Agency. It's come to affect our budget several times when we were in need and MWA was there. I can see nothing but benefit in this.
I like that. Well, then I would move, I guess I'll make the motion, that we add a new per diem assignment to be on a rotating board member basis to attend the monthly LAFCO meeting, which I believe they're the third Wednesday at 9 a.m. of each month. There's one a month. And we'll get the schedule for that then next month when we do all this and Beverly's back in the office and stuff. Well, that's my motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Roll call vote, please, Mark.
President Unger,
Yes.
Vice President Flowen,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Aye.
Director Doolittle,
Aye.
and Director Jarlsberg.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Good, good, good. Well, that's the last of the kind of things we have to vote on and stuff. You all like your assignments. That's good. I'm really looking forward to having us all be working together this year. We've all had a chance to do a lot of Zoom meetings, so I think we'll be just fine. So let's go on to General Manager Report.
You know, I'm going to say Merry Christmas to everyone and have a Happy New Year. We still have a closed session to go through, so I'm going to reserve any more comments till the next meeting. So,
okay, then definitely.
Congratulations to our new board members.
Well, I'll tell you what, then we'll move on to director's reports on the meetings attended, comments, future agenda items. Kathleen, what do you want to report on for the Public Information Committee meeting today?
I'm going to try and go fast here. The swamp cooler report is not ready.
No.
Secondly, yeah, surprise. Secondly, the wildcrafting grant, the Bureau of Land Management grant is moving forward. All 12 signs are in the garden permanently now. The beautiful permanent signs are installed. The garden is kept locked during this COVID season, but private tours are permitted. So if you're interested in going through, let me know. Or if you know of anyone that wants to take a tour, just have them contact me. The only two things left on the grant to complete is major promotion for the March plant sale. We will not have Water Education Day due to COVID, but we are going to have the March plant sale, which we can execute safely. And one more Zoom wildcrafting class near the end of the year. The district tour grants that I have procured for this year, one we're having a problem with COVID. In case you didn't notice, people don't want to get on a bus. So we have renegotiated the funds with Mojave, and we are resubmitting to do a videotaping of a virtual tour. Whole new project, but they're really excited about moving the grant money into that form of a project. So we will have a virtual district tour project, hopefully completed by this spring. I don't know. There's a lot at stake here, but that's our goal. And there will not be live district tours this year during the COVID event. The Water Education Day district grant, the grant from Mojave Water Agency for the district. Since we're not having Water Education Day, I've also got permission to move that mostly for around the plant sale. And then United Way of the Desert did come out last month, and they did a live intake, but we even promoted it on the radio. We only had 4 individuals take advantage of it. We don't know why. I'm just letting you know what occurred, where they still want to come back and do it again. We'll see what happens. And then at the farmers market this month, our theme is water gifts that keep on giving. Stop by, say hi, And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Kathleen. And I think I did see Karen Tracy here tonight.
Doesn't look like she's here now, though.
Oh,
Yeah, she was here. Yeah.
oh,
She was
okay.
feeling under the weather.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask Kathleen a question?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Or somebody, anyway, bring it up. There had been discussion about increasing the benefit of the United Way program, and I haven't heard it brought up again for a while. Wondered if it's kind of waiting to be brought up in another agenda.
Mark, do you want to address that, or do you want me to take it?
I think the last way we left it was we were going to bring that back to the board, I think, to increase. We were going to have another, one of the CAC members was going to deliver a report to the board, and I don't think we got around to doing that quite yet. What's going on? You see that different, Kathleen?
Just that there were different proposals, and then there was the investigation into what is reality with what we can afford to do. And that's when things got a little bumpy. And so they had to do what you're saying, Mark, is sit down and really go through things. I'm thinking that that may not have been followed through with, because I think, was it not Gail Austin that was going to handle it, but now she has resigned from the CAC because she's in Texas now. So it might have to be readdressed and regrouped on. And that's what I recall.
I recall,
Thank you.
I recall something too on that, and that is that there, for things such as this, where Susan wants to avoid the gift of public funds, there's only limited places that we can draw that money from. And Susan can speak for herself, obviously, better than I can, but it's sort of a tight kind of a thing where we don't necessarily have the ability to expand it because the money's not there because of this gift of public funds restriction. Susan, do you have a comment? You're on mute now.
Yeah, we have to use non-water rate revenue for projects like that. So property tax revenues or something along those lines, not revenues generated from water rates. So to the extent that, that is a fairly insignificant amount at this point in time, some $6,000 a year or something, I think, like that. We have far more property tax revenue than that could be thrown at this project if that's, what our intention is.
And Kathleen, we still have a lot of money in that fund. People aren't taking advantage of it. That's
Well,
so weird.
I have a theory, and I could be totally wrong.
Let's hear it.
But since the governor told people, yeah, I don't think there's a sense of urgency anymore. That's what I think. With this new ruling that we cannot.
Yeah.
I just don't want to say it. I'm sorry, it hurts.
Susan, are we seeing that in our revenues that?
Oh, yes. Well, not so much in the revenues. The bills continue to be comparable. What we're seeing is that our receivables are increased 40% from last year. So people are getting billed fairly comparable amounts, even sometimes a little more. They're just not paying. We have 40% increase in people that aren't paying.
Yeah.
And there's no consequences right now.
Right.
So I think that's my theory. And we still have great customers who value what we do.
Yeah.
They tell us weekly, they appreciate what we do. But because the ones that might take advantage of this program are not under the pressure they were, I think that's why right now we're seeing, we're hearing an echo. It's just not coming back to us. So.
Well, I wish they would, because that way we get our money back. We put the money in there, now we get it back.
I know, and we're promoting. We've put it on the radio. We're doing as much as we can.
I know. Anything else for Kathleen? Well, I'm going to move on here. I'm going to pass on giving my Aqua virtual conference report until our next meeting, which will not be January 6th, but will be the third Wednesday. No Citizens Advisory Council. Finance Committee, a lot of what we did on the Finance Committee, you guys worked on tonight. You saw it there. Mojave Water Agency. Yeah, I did do that one. I do have something on that. Let me get that here. The board, regular board meeting, they also had 3 new board members this last week. They're Mike Limbaugh, Rick Raleigh, Kenneth Anderson replaced Thurston Smitty Smith, who went to California State Legislature, Carl Coleman, who got beat in his reelection, and Richard Hall, who just stepped down, and the appointment filled his spot. They had a couple of workshops, and they spent a lot of time in a workshop discussing whether to replace their agency logo. And there were 2 choices. One of them had a Joshua tree in it, kind of reminded me of ours. And Director Kimberly Cox, she didn't like the one with the Joshua tree because she said, quote, "It's perceived as an impediment to development."
Oh,
I know. And she's on LAFCO. And so the board agreed with Jim Ventura, who is now the board president, to keep the existing logo, just bump up the colors. The other workshop they had, though, was by their consultants, Tully and Young, regarding the Urban Water Management Plan update. And Mojave Water Agencies, they have their conservation manager there, Nick Schneider. Our newbies will get to know these people. He noted that land use planning was more important this time. And you guys know me, I'm always saying, water is land use. So I was kind of happy to hear that. And as well as a new 5-year drought projections that have to be considered. And these would stress conservation as a way of life. The consultant said the new annual assessments for supply demand were about big picture planning and must demonstrate 20-year reliability for supply and demand, and must be able to show that they have a water shortage contingency plan. The land use elements would include the region's general and specific plans, CEQA water supply analysis, and would have to harmonize Mojave with their retailers, which is us, with our urban water management plan. And these also includes the adjudicated basins. They have to prove that water is there before development, which they joked, unlike the old days when you would build a project and then find water, now you cannot put forward a project until you prove that you've got, I think it's a 20-year reliability for water. The Department of Water Resources is going to use these urban water management plans to understand urban water use trends, drought management, how everybody manages their supply interruptions, and how then they can also manage supply interruptions, from catastrophes. This has been a trend since the drought regulations in 2014, where the Department of Water Resources, the state resources board, they've been having all the water agencies and districts, wholesalers and retailers do all this reporting. They have been dowsing for water. You hear me say this too. They know where the water is in California. They want to know where the water is. And it's, water's the new gold. And then the board was also told that in order for funding for conservation and infrastructure for people like us, your plan really needs to show and dictate how you will handle those big elements they're looking at. Drought resistance, supply and demand, and land use. So I know we in the past have kind of drafted behind Mojave, right? Mark has been able to use a lot of things from their urban water management plans. And so they switched consultants this year. They're using Tully and Young, Jim Tully and Greg Young. So that might affect us. And speaking about per diems, the board voted 5-2 to increase their board members' reimbursements by the state allowed 5% each year, which they have not done in 12 or 15 years, from their per diem of $179.57, not to exceed 10 meetings a month, to $188.55. And this will require a public hearing because they're increasing their pay. So they asked their staff to put together something so they can have a public hearing on it. But they said because they hadn't increased their reimbursements for so long, they said they were kind of concerned that we're getting behind, and they could actually do a cumulative on that and raise it by like 25% or something like that. And they said, oh no one's going to go for that. Let's try that modest 5%. And then they voted unanimous to upgrade their 2011 Cisco communication system, which had, quote, exceeded its support life. That system at the front desk was still running on Windows 7, and it was unable to support Windows 10. In fact, it was pretty interesting. I kind of saved it. I put it in a folder in case we ever have to do something like that. The upgrade was budgeted at $100,000, but it came in under budget at $92,400. Then the board also voted as unanimous. Southern California Edison wanted to put in a facility at this Atalanto project. They call it, that's the one you'll hear called R3 or R Cube. It's the Atalanto Regional Recharge and Recovery Project. Is a pipeline and everything. Their hydrologist, Tony Winkle, who would always come out and help us on Water Education Day, he said that this was in the budget. The change order was not something that, was shocking to them, but they were looking, it's a several $million project in toto for Mojave, and they were looking at either $3 million or $5 million in grants from the Bureau of Reclamation and the Department of Water Resources. And also at that meeting before they closed, President Jim Ventura thanked Michelle Doyle, who's also retiring, for her many years of service at the Mojave Water Agency. And once again, if we'd been there in person, there'd have been a party. It's like there would have been a party here. And that's my report on the Mojave Water Agency meeting from last week. Let's see. Future meetings, we talked about this briefly. The Mojave Water Agency TAC, December 17th. Oh, that's tomorrow. That's Tom. We've canceled our Board of Directors meeting for January 6th, so I guess our next one would be January 20th. Finance Committee meets on January 13th at 9 a.m. In the words of Bob Johnson, riveting. And the Water Resource and Operations Committee, also January 13 at 10:30, right after Finance. And then Stacy, you're on for your first Mojave Water Agency Board of Meeting official, January 14th. Okay, at this time, at 8:44, we're going to go into closed session. We've got a conference with real property negotiators for property identified by the assessor's parcel number 0603-23-105-0000. And so I will...
Madam President?
Yes.
May I ask a quick question?
Yes, yes.
Is it okay to sit in on the committee meetings without speaking?
I don't think
Not
so.
on the committee?
Beverly brought that up, and we've been doing that. And
No, I followed up with her on that because I just read the Brown Act as part of my study for all of this, and it actually uses the scenario that you have a meeting that 2 committee members are attending and a third attends. Are you in violation of the Brown Act? No, you are not.
Oh, yeah.
So the third attends and doesn't speak and doesn't participate.
And
Yeah.
she said there was a change, and I didn't see that
There was
change.
no change, because I asked her where the change was, because
Yeah.
I didn't see the change, and she didn't offer any example of that.
Yeah, so that's weird. And Jeff, maybe you're
Yeah.
still here. Could you give us some clarification on that angle?
No, I certainly can. And I can confirm for you too, because I know this is one that comes up from time to time. And there's some allowances in the committee aspects. But because the Brown Act does include hearing, and I know there's been some back and forth. Let me double check that and get you the answer so I don't give you the wrong one. My inclination when the question was asked is that no, you cannot attend. But as Director Doolittle made her comment, I believe that also might have applied to other legislative bodies outside the district. So let me confirm that for you, that there's no exception for a committee. You're talking about a committee of the district, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will
Madam
confirm
President?
that for you.
I heard a voice.
Yeah, Rebecca, this is Mike.
Oh, hi, Mike.
This subject has come up in the past, and I've got a little bit of a concern about a third person attending. Yes, the third person, third director should not be able to speak. However, it's also facial gestures, kind of like what we were just talking about with hitting the like button. Shaking your head up and down or making funny faces or something like that is a way of communicating even without words in a committee meeting, and that scares me.
That's an excellent point. That's a very good point. Jeff, let's tie that down, because that's if emojis are considered communication, then that's definitely a good point.
I have looked at this question. I have answered this question, but I am not confident that I'm remembering what my answer was. So let me just verify that for you, and I will let you know.
Yeah, it is important, and really, Director Reynolds made an absolutely great observation, and he's absolutely right. If we're looking at emojis, and we're certainly looking at, FaceTime emojis.
And the Brown Act does apply to hearing as well. And so it's not only discussing, but it's also hearing the conversation, because you're helping develop consensus by hearing those arguments.
Oh, of course.
That is where I believe it comes in. But again, I do believe there is a nuance about committees. So that's why I'll double check and verify.
Right, and both of those things, what you just said about hearing it, and what Mike said about even if you're doing it by phone and you're not seeing the person's face, you're not seeing them, grimace or laugh or whatever, they are hearing it,
right,
and are privileged to, even though they're open to the public, the participation by a third board member there's a possible consensus that person is getting. It's a shame, but let's get a real boom.
Yeah.
If we have to go to the state of California to our legislators, let's get
and there are ways, and I can, in my response, I can also, perhaps that might be the more appropriate way to give these options, but there are ways. I know agencies that have structured their committee meetings so they can be alternative board meetings or committee meetings. So if you do end up having an interest of a third to 10, they can. So there may be other options I can give to you. I can kind of outlay options that you can do if there's an interest. But let me confirm that answer for you.
Yeah.
It may be entirely unnecessary to go into that.
But it would be great. I think we'd all really like to have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitive answer. Great.
Great question.
Thank you, Jane, for asking, and thank you, Mike and Stacy, for doing that, for chiming in on that. That's really important. Thank you, Jeff. Well, at this time, we are going to pause the open portion of our meeting tonight and go into closed session at 8:50. So I want to thank all the public members and staff who've been on this meeting. I would say you're free to roam and go on to your evening. And I think, Jeff, you're staying with us?
Yes.
And okay. And good night, everybody. Good night, Susan. Are we going to be on this with us?
No, not me.
Good
Good night.
All of
Good
you.
night, sweetie.
Thank you so much, everybody.
We love you.